you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is going to be the update to the Easy Sorc, the Magicka Sorcerer for the Greymoor Chapter. We are finally in Skyrim with this build. This has been on the channel for 3 years plus and had an update every 3 months without fail. And it's still extremely strong and somewhat stronger now, depending on how good you are with it. Now, this has got many different combined bonuses that all make the one character overall. The design for this is quite simple. Easy to use, good survival, good sustain, good damage in both single target and area of effect. However, just to note, this does have good single target, but it has stupidly high AoE. So you can do any content with this, whether it be solo, 4-man or 12-man, without any struggle whatsoever, but the more adds in the room, the more mess you're going to make. And the rotation is simple to apply. However, like I said earlier, in other videos, if you are more advanced, you will get more out of it. If you're not so advanced, you will still be able to perform in all content, no trouble. Practice makes perfect, but we're going to go over this, and hopefully you're going to enjoy it just as much as you did before, if not, maybe more. So, first of all, we're going to go into the stats. We'll make sure we've got our potion running and all our good stuff. Have some of that. Buffs on, and health. Excellent. So, we are on 38.9k max Magicka, 19.2k max health, and 10k max stamina. 853 Magicka recovery, but our rotation will cover for a lot of our sustain, so don't worry too much about that at the moment. 3k spell damage, which will go up, 53.6% crit chance, and 17 almost k spell resist alongside almost 15k physical resist. We are putting all of our points into max Magicka, so we've got 64 points into here. Now we have max health, max Magicka food. This is the flat stuff. It gives you about 5.3k max health and 4.9k max Magicka, even though it says 0 there. That's a bug, don't worry. We are using the Shadow Munda Stone, and of course, we are not a vampire. We are not a vampire. We will get to that when we get to the passives. A bit more detail in there, but we are not a vampire on purpose because of reasons. Now, I'm going to go into the skills in detail. I'm going to explain where they all come from, what to morph them into, and I'm also going to show a little demonstration on the screen of how they work and what they look like and all that good stuff. If you want to skip this part, it's entirely up to you, but just bear in mind, of course, I am going to go into detail, so if you do ask questions in the comment section below that I've already answered, I obviously won't be repeating myself. So, enjoy, but if you want to skip, that's your call. So, first of all, we are using Summon Twilight Tormentor. This is in a Daedric summoning skill line. Third ability to unlock starts off as Summon Winged Twilight, morph it to Summon Twilight Tormentor. The reason being this one does damage, the other one has a heal effect added to it if you activate it. Now, it does say that this has a cast time, but that's just the initial summoning of the pet. If you don't double bar it when you swap bars, it will die and you'll have to recast it. So don't do that. Just make sure you activate it and leave it there. Now, this will do damage to the targets that you're hitting, of course. The main target, so if you heavy attack anything, it will tell the pet to go and hit it, or if it's the only target in the fight, it'll hit it anyway. But, while the enemy is above 50% health, you will do 53% more damage to it with this skill if you activate its special ability, which is Instacast. Now, you don't need to spam it, you only need to apply it once every rotation, but once that target goes below 50%, don't cast this anymore, because you won't get a benefit from it and it'll just waste Magicka. It's not that expensive, it's only 3k per cast once every 15 seconds, but once you're below 50%, stop using it, just let it do its passive damage. Next is Daedric Tomb. This is very, very strong and massively overlooked, and it's really, really cool as well. This is in the Dark Magic skill line. It's the last ability to unlock. Unfortunately, it takes a while to get this, but starts off as Daedric Mines, morph it to Daedric Tomb. Now, this skill is very simple. You place 3 mines on the ground. Each one will explode if a target lands in them. Now, some targets can be hit with more than 1. In fact, most targets, almost all of them, can actually be hit by 2 if you place it very carefully, so it can do a substantial amount of damage. It can also immobilize targets as well if they are able to be CC'd. Some targets can be hit by 3, and positioning can make them be hit by 3. So if your tank is very smart and plays with the builds that you're using in your group and knows how they work, you can actually pin enemies up against a wall or up in a corner, and these mines will land on the floor and on the wall, and they'll be close enough to get hit by all 3. We've done this on the live stream a few times. We actually had a couple of tanks that knew full well how to use the Easy Sorc because they had one themselves, and they were pinning stuff in Sunspire into the corners, and all the ads were getting nuked by 3 mines at a time from each Easy Sorc. It's actually really, really fun. Open wide spaces, that's not going to happen as often, but areas where you can take advantage of the scenery or the surroundings, make sure you obviously tell your tank that's going to help, because you can make all 3 go off on one target, and it's devastating. Now, next up is Hardened Ward. This is in our Daedric Summoning skill line. It is the 4th ability you unlock. Starts off as Conjured Ward, morph it to Hardened Ward. Very simply put, this is a damage shield. If you get in trouble, activate it and it will protect you for 11.5k damage. This is scaled off of your max Magicka, so the more magic you have, the stronger the shield, but it's capped at your max health. So the more health you have, the larger the shield can be based on that 60% marker. But you need a magic pool in order to buffer it in the first place. At the moment, this is 11.5k. If you're fully trial buffed, you can get about 12, 13k out of the shield. It's huge. Next up is Inner Light. This is in the Mage's Guild skill line. This is the first ability to unlock. Starts off as Mage Light, morph it to Inner Light. Very simply put, do not activate this. Leave it on your bar. It gives you a max magic bonus of 5%, and it gives you Major Prophecy, increasing your spell crit rating. Yes, you can get those from pots anyway, but we have it all the time on the front bar regardless. So if your pot is down, or you're not using them at all, you do have it. This is just a stat increase, nothing more, nothing less. Next is Mage's Wrath. This is in the Storm Calling skill line. This is the first ability to unlock, so you get it very early on. Mage's Fury is how it starts, morph it to Mage's Wrath. This will do lightning damage to the target that you hit it with, and if they go below 20% health within 4 seconds, it will pop. Or if they're already below 20% health, they will pop. And it will do area of effect damage and increased single target damage as well. This is your execute. You only use this at low health. So to explain how these skills actually work, this skill you mustn't cast while they're under 50%. This one you should cast while they're under 20%. So keep an eye on the percentages of the bosses or the targets and use these abilities to your advantage as and when those situations arise. However, when we get to the rotation, there will be situations where you will and won't use this depending on how much damage you're actually doing at the time, depending on the setup. But to keep it simple, this you activate once every 15 seconds until the boss or target is 50%. This you use as spammable, and this you use as an execute below 20% health. Just bear in mind, of course, you can preempt this and put it on the target before 20%, and if it pushes to 20% when the 4 seconds is still ticking, it can blow up. So you can kind of line it up early. Our main ultimate on our front bar is for utility. This is Suppression Field. Starts off as Negate Magic, morph it to Suppression Field. It's in a Dark Magic skill. I need level 12 to get this, and basically this will put a big bubble on the ground, and this will stun all enemies inside of it for 12 seconds. So this is a massive oh shit button, and it's really, really powerful. Not only that, it does really high damage as well, because it does magic damage every half a second for 12 seconds. You can actually get 24 ticks out of this in area of effect. I don't use this as my main active ultimate, but in situations where we need to pin stuff down, we're overwhelmed, this actually helps a hell of a lot. So keep this on here for emergencies. Back bar, of course, we've double barred the pet because you must, otherwise it will die when you swap bars, so that was quite simple. Unstable Wall of Storms. Now this is actually Unstable Wall of Elements, but the name of it changes depending on what element your staff is. So, Destruction Staff, of course, second ability you unlock, starts off as Wall of Elements, morph it to Unstable Wall of Elements. This will put a wall of damage on the floor, and when it's finished, or when you recast it, it will explode. Now it says it does magic damage here, but as you can see here, it actually does shock damage because we're using a shock staff. If you had a flame staff, it would then do fire damage instead. Now, when this is on the ground, it will do damage every 1 second to all targets caught inside of it. However, if you do lightning damage, you have a chance to apply a concussed status effect. Concussion applies minor vulnerability, making your group do 8% more damage to the targets affected. But if something is concussed and it gets hit with a lightning-based Wall of Elements, it will knock it off balance. Off balance has an uptime and a downtime, by the way, because there is an immunity phase for it. So 7 seconds of uptime and 15 seconds of down, and then you can reapply it again. During off balance, anyone that heavy attacks it will get double resources back, no matter what weapons they're using, and they will, of course, do more damage with their heavy attacks. Now, that is very important to our build. This particular off balance proccing skill must be up all the time without fail. When this is over, like I said, it will explode, and that can happen whether it runs out or you reapply the skill. Just make sure you keep this active all the time. It'll become more apparent once we get to the gear about how important this particular skill is. Next up is Boundless Storms. This is in the Storm Calling skill line. Second ability you unlock starts off as Lightning Form, morph it to Boundless Storm. Not only does this give you a massive resistance buff in the form of Major Resolve, giving you 5280 resistances for both physical and spell, but it also makes you a bit faster for 4 seconds, and it does damage every 1 second in area of effect for 23 seconds. So it's a resistance buff, it does damage, and it makes you faster. Now, the damage to this is actually quite nice, especially once you get all your buffs and bonuses. But this can also apply concussion, which helps alongside of our Wall of Elements. So this is actually really, really good to keep this up, not just for your survival, but for your damage output and buff and debuff type stuff as well. Critical Surge is next in the same skill line, actually. 4th ability to unlock. This is probably the most broken skill in the game for the Sorcerer. This starts off as Surge, morph it to Critical Surge, and just keep this up once every 33 seconds. This will give you Major Brutality and Sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 33 seconds. And all damage that you do could crit or not crit. If you don't crit, you don't get a benefit from this. If you do crit, you will receive 3300 in the form of a heal, and this can happen once a second. You will get that heal almost guaranteed every second, and it's really hard for you to die. So even something as simple as this, Boundless Storms does damage every 1 second. If you're standing next to a couple of enemies and this is ticking every second, and this gets a crit, of course, you can heal. You just need to stand next to something, let alone your overall rotations. This is very, very powerful. Not to mention, of course, it's not just a flat 3300. Your healing done and healing received all are considered, so extra buffs externally or from yourself can actually enhance this. You can heal sometimes up to about 7k a second. It's stupidly strong. Make sure you don't let this run out. This is a flex slot, however. If you're in a situation where you don't think your survival is at risk and you don't think you need it because your group is covering everything, you can swap this out for increase to more damage. And what you can do is you can put Beast Trap on in the form of Barbed Trap. Now this is in the Fighters Guild skill line. This is the last ability to unlock. Starts off as Trap Beast, morph it to Barbed Trap. Now this will go here instead, and this will give you minor force. It will put a trap down on the ground. It will do physical damage over time to the target, which isn't that much for us, but we'll take it anyway. But the most important thing, of course, while this is active, this will actually give you a 10% increase to all critical damage that you do. Bear in mind, of course, if you don't want to use this and you are or feel safer with Crit Surge, that is absolutely fine, but you'll have to consider your potions you use. If you're using Barb Trap, you'll need Spell Pots. If you're using Crit Surge, you can use Tripods, and you're much safer. You can, of course, still benefit from minor force inside your group, depending on whether your group are willing to help you or not. If you have Twilight in your group, the actual set, you can take synergies from the person using that set, and you can gain minor force pretty much all the time as long as you're taking synergies. Failing that, if you've got a really friendly tank, they could guard you, and you become much stronger survivability-wise, but you can have a permanent minor force, and you don't even need a skill for it. So there are situations which you can alter in your favor and still benefit from that minor force without actually slotting it if you don't want to. But the choice is yours. Next up, of course, is Lightning Flood. Now, this is in the Stormcalling skill line. This is the 3rd ability to unlock. Starts off as Lightning Splash, morph it to Lightning Flood. I know we used to use Liquid Lightning quite a lot, but that one has got a longer duration and less damage now. So that's the reason we picked this is for the overall damage output. And it fits into our rotation quite nicely because it's the same time as the Wall of Elements. This is quite simple. Puts lightning damage down on the ground. Make sure you stack this on top of your Wall of Elements. Both of them doing lightning damage all the time, can proc concussion, and of course that makes off balance happen a lot easier. And this does do a substantial amount of damage. So keep these 2 dots up all the time. Don't let them run out. While it's running, of course, it does have a synergy effect on the ground, so your teammates can actually pick this up and do a fairly substantial amount of shock damage and area of effect as well. So this is really, really handy. Don't let that run out if you can help it. Next up is the main ultimate, of course, Thunderous Rage. This is in Destruction Staff skill line. You need level 50 for this for Destruction Staff. It starts off as Elemental Storm, morph it to Elemental Rage. And this, obviously, is Thunderous because it's lightning. Each different elemental type has a different bonus to it. So Fire Rage will increase the damage of it by 15%. Ice will immobilize the targets. And Lightning has an increased duration. So for us, we actually get 9 seconds out of this, not 7. But again, this is lightning damage. It can cause concussion. It can proc off balance, all that kind of stuff. With these all lined up, your back bar basically gives all the buff and debuff to your group from this particular build and for yourself as well. It's very important that we have this set up. Now, if you do choose to change your flame staff for the purpose of extra damage out of this and this, you can do so. That's mostly beneficial if you have a Dragon Knight in your group with the Engulfing Flames. If you don't, then it's not really that much of a difference. But just bear in mind, only do that if you have off balance 100% covered and you can guarantee someone else is going to make sure this happens every single time without fail. That's very, very rare, but if it happens, then you can switch. If it doesn't, then stick to lightning all the time because you're the one bringing that buff. Now, we're going to go into passives. These are very important, so do pay attention, of course. You need to understand how these work, otherwise you won't understand the build at all. This reduces your health, magicka, and stamina cost of all abilities. Very nice, get it. When you hit an enemy with direct applied dark magic ability, note by the way, these mines do count as direct damage, you will of course heal. And you will actually heal for 1922, and this can happen once every 0.5 seconds. So if you have 2 mines on the ground and 2 enemies run into it half a second apart from each other, you just got 2 heals. Not to mention, of course, you've got crit surge running, which is insane. So this is really helpful. After blocking an attack, your next magicka, stamina, or health ability costs 15% less. So of course, if you block something, you then get reduced cost for your next skill. When you cast a dark magic ability, you grant minor prophecy to you and your group. Now, you saw earlier that my crit chance was 53.6, I believe. And if I cast a dark magic ability, that will go up. So we actually have 59.6, almost 60% there. That is because of this passive. Daedric Summoning is important, of course. This will restore magicka if your pet dies. So a nice passive. Your pet won't die that often, but just in case. Reduces your ultimate cost by 15%, very nice indeed. And increases your health and stamina recovery by 20% while you have a Daedric Summoning ability slotted. Now we do, obviously, on both bars because we have a pet on both bars. So that is covered all the time. Increases your health and stamina recovery by 20% for having a Daedric Summoning ability slotted. That's covered on both bars. Increases your max health by 8% while you have a Daedric Summoning pet active. This doesn't apply to the ultimate. This only applies to your actual active skill pets. However, we do have that bonus because we've got it on both bars. So we've got a lot of health. And of course, if you choose to, you can actually take the Storm Atronach instead of the Negate Bubble and use this more actively. But that's mostly for groups that want the Major Berserk. If someone can take the synergy, your pet gets it and they get it as well. So that can help. But for the most part, I pretty much use the Death Royalty because the AoE effect of it, it actually just annihilates rooms. Choice is yours, however. Also, in Maelstrom, take this. This can actually last more than 1 round and will just wipe people out as they spawn. So for Maelstrom, I would take this one. Again, choices are yours. Stormcorn, of course. 10% magic recovery. Nice, we'll take it. Increases your physical and shock damage. We're doing nothing but shock damage for the most part, apart from our mines, which is magic damage. This is really, really beneficial to us, so it does increase all of our shock damage that we're doing, including your Wall of Elements, Liquid Lightning, all that good stuff. Increases your damage done against enemies by 1% for every 10% current health they have. Now, this is confusing for some, but very simply put, your flat damage is what you do, and every 10% health they have, you do 1% more. So if they have 10% health, you do 1% more damage. If they have 90% health, you do 9% more damage. It's as simple as that. So, this is a reverse execute passive, if you like. The more health they have, the more damage you do. That is also quite helpful for this skill, where you activate it at high health and not low, and then when the health does go low and your bonus to this passive starts going down, that's when you can take advantage of the execute to push it back up again. So, all the time you'll actually do more damage than without having the passive, but the higher the health, the better. Increases your weapon and spell damage by 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. That's very simple. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the front bar, so it's 10% increase. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the back bar, so it's 8% increase. We've got 10 on the front, 8 on the back. That's your spell damage increase just for having that passive. Very helpful indeed. Now, destruction staff is very, very important. Pay close attention to this. Your fully charged heavy attacks from a shock staff will splash damage nearby targets for 100% of the damage done. That does not include crits. If you crit the target in front of you, your splash damage will be equal to that of the base. If you don't crit, the splash damage will be equal to that of the base. It doesn't consider the crits, but the more damage you do, obviously, from stacking bonuses, the better. So during off balance, you do an abundance of area of effect damage from this heavy attack bonus here. It's really important to get that passive and understand it. This will increase the spell pen of all your destruction staff abilities, including your lights and heavy attacks and your ultimates and such. When you have a destruction staff equip, your status effect chance is enhanced by 100%. So this means that applying concussion for holding a Destro staff is heightened. If you are a tank or a healer and using a Destro staff on the back and not on the front, obviously, you will not have this increased concussion chance from a lightning staff. You have it while you're holding it, but you don't have it while you don't hold it. So if you swap bars, you lose this extra chance to do it. That's why if you look at ESO logs, you'll see a lot of healers and tanks using lightning staves, which is fine. You can do that, but you will have a lesser chance to apply it, which means off balance is not quite as easy for you to control. I've seen fights where tanks and healers have been trying to use it, one of each actually, 2 in a group trying to bounce off each other, and they have collectively managed to get 30 concussion procs over 7 minutes. I've seen people using this or my Templar off balance build, which is built for lightning, and I've seen in excess of 600 over the same period of time. There is a substantial difference to having the passives available to when you do swap bars. Of course, you can still apply it regardless, anyone can, but the chance increase is massive for us, so it's very, very beneficial for us to just stack lightning and just do all that for everybody else without them having to change their builds. If you are not taking advantage of the lightning and you want to use a flame staff instead, make sure you have definitely got enough concussion in your group for you to not need to do it. Otherwise, you're going to lose that massive bonus, and you, as a player and a group, are going to lose damage. So it depends on the group, but for the most part, just lightning all the way. If you have it covered already, you've got enough off balance in the group, you don't struggle with it, then of course you can go flame. This is also very important. All of your area of effect damage while holding a lightning staff will be increased by 8%. Now, people seem to think that that's just area of effect, so surrounding targets. False. Area of effect damage applies to your single target that you're hitting as well, because it's the damage of the skill type. It doesn't mean, oh, it doesn't hit the boss for 8% more, but it hits all the ads. No, it hits everyone for 8% more. So if it's an area of effect skill, that is enhanced. So, for example, we have Lightning Flood, we have Unstable Wall of Elements or Unstable Wall of Storms, we have Boundless Storms, we have the Destro Royalty, we have our heavy attack from our Lightning Staff. All of those are enhanced by 8% because of this passive. Now, this does count as direct, so yes, you would get more from a Flame Staff from this particular skill alone, as would you with this one. But unfortunately, the way the build is made, that won't really help you at all, because you are going to struggle with your sustain. You're not going to have the same splash damage as you would with the lightning staff. You're not going to have as much concussion uptime and all that stuff. So that's more for spammable rotations rather than stuff that utilizes heavy attacks quite a lot. So that's the reason for the lightning stuff. We have a massive amount of area of effect, and this does push that a lot. This, when you kill an enemy with a destruction staff skill, you will gain 3600 Magicka back, including a heavy attack or a light attack. Light armor, of course, is very important. We'll get every single one of these because we are using 5 pieces of light. This will reduce the effectiveness of snares applied to you and reduce the cost of sprint. This will increase your magic recovery and reduction to cost per piece worn. This will increase your spell resistance. This will increase your critical rating, your spell crit. This will actually give you 2191, which is 10%. And this will increase your spell penetration by 4884. It's very easy to spell cap out in PVE trials or dungeons if you've got bonuses and buffs applied by your group, if you're wearing light armor, because we have it as a basic bonus. It's very, very easy to do, which means we don't have to spend a lot of champion points to get there if we're trying to get to the cap of 18200. We are using 2 pieces of medium, so you're going to want a couple of these. This increased weapon damage, which is not that important, although we do have major brutality. You can get a little bit of extra out of the beast trap, but that's not essential if you don't want to. But you do want this. This increases your stamina recovery, and we are going to use stamina for blocking, dodging, and running and stuff. And also reduces the cost, so if you are using the beast trap, that's down. And you're going to want this as well. This increases your movement speed and reduces the cost of dodge roll. So above all, if you want any of these, you're going to want Windwalker and Athletics. Heavy armor, you don't need all of these. You only need the top 3. We're using 1 piece of heavy. This will increase your resistances per piece worn. This will give you return for getting hit, and of course increase your health recovery for each piece worn. And this will increase your health for each piece worn as well. So these tiny bonuses here do actually add up to a nice bonus for us overall. We are not a vampire. Because of the way the vampire skills worked, it turned out that we actually messed with our survival way too much. The active skills were not enough for us to use for this particular build and destroyed its design. And the vampire skill, where you actually lose health every second but have a massive amount of spell damage increased, was something that we could combat. We could use it alongside of our crit surge, but certain stages of vampirism made that too strong and made all of our abilities cost too much. Now, I did counter this by putting on the tri-stat new glyph on my jewelry, so that I could get the health cost down of Sated Fury, I could get the ability cost down for all my rotation used skills and all that good stuff, and I could sustain indefinitely, no problem. But it added complications to that by turning on and off a skill when it's supposed to be an easy build. It also opened up situations where you could take one-shots because your health was too low, and also putting on the cost reduction glyphs took away not far short of 600 spell damage from our jewelry. And then we gained that in return from Sated Fury of 630. Overall, we essentially had about 100 extra spell damage with many, many more complications. So it wasn't necessary. So we are not a vampire, unfortunately, on purpose. This keeps the simplicity of the build there. Its performance is still there. You don't need to be a vampire. And as a small bonus, we have now actually got some health recovery, so why not? Fighters Guild, of course, you are going to need a couple of these. Intimidating Presence, if you're using Beast Trap, you're going to want to get the cost down. You are able to take advantage of this passive on the back bar, but it's minimal, so you don't really have to, but this one you do want to get. When you kill Undead, Daedra, or Werewolf, and with the amount of AoE you've got, you're going to kill pretty much everything before anybody else does. You will get 9 ultimate per kill. That's very, very important. You must get the kill and blow. Mages Guild, of course, we are not going into Mages Guild 10, don't really need to, but if you do end up with all the passives, you can take advantage of this. This increases your max Magicka and Magicka recovery by 2% for each ability slotted. So if you do have high Mages Guild, you don't need 10 exactly, but if you do have high Mages Guild, you can obviously take advantage a little bit more from this skill by having a further 2% Magicka increase for slotting it. So it's 5% there, but it's also an additional 2% for having it there in the first place. We do want to take advantage of Undaunted, of course, these two very important skills. This is something that is incredibly overlooked. Every time you take a synergy, you get resources back. 4% of your bars, in fact. Take every synergy you can see. You can take them inside skills. You have been able to for a long time. It doesn't slow down your rotation if you know what you're doing. And it will increase your sustain. There is a video on my channel about synergies. Go and check it out in the How to Get Good section. It's all there. This is very important, of course, as well. We're using 3 different types of armor. We're using 1 heavy, 1 medium, and 5 light. Because of that, we've took a 2% bonus to all 3 stat pools for each type worn. So we've got 6% flat stats overall. We are, of course, a high elf. You do not have to be, but we are deliberately a high elf to take advantage of these passives. This, if you activate a class ability, you restore 640 Magicka or stamina based on whichever is the lowest. Our lowest pool is stamina. So if we use 1 class ability every 6 seconds, we will actually fill stamina up by 640. That helps not only for your Beast Trap if you're using it, but it also helps for your survival because you can dodge roll more often, you can block and all that good stuff as well. Not to mention, of course, if you're using a channeled ability with a cast time, you do take 5% less damage. Yes, that's multiplicative, of course, it's not going to be a flat 5%, but it's still going to help nonetheless if you are channeling any abilities. And that works towards your lightning staff as well if you are doing a fully charged heavy attack. The rest of the stuff we're not really using as a channel effect, although if you are now casting your pet, you do take advantage of that bonus as well during that small window. So if you are just revived and you have to get your pet up, you'll start taking less damage just while you're trying to get him back in the room. This increases your max magic by 2k, and this increases your spell damage, flat out. There's lots of people that like to use Breton with this particular build. That's also just fine, as is any other race. But if you do, your sustain is going to be higher, your survival is going to be higher, but your spell damage is going to be lower. So just bear that in mind. Most important passive in the game, in my opinion, medicinal use. You will be using crafted pots, hopefully. Make sure you use them 100% of the time, because they are consumable buffs. You don't let your buffs run out, don't let your potions run out. If you have medicinal use, you don't have to make all the potions and stuff. You can dump these points as long as you've got max level 50. Just put 3 points into here, and your potions will last 30% longer. Meaning that any potion you use, if it's crafted, as long as it's a long-durated buff, so for us it's going to be spell pots or tripots, you will actually get 47 seconds out of them instead of 45, which is the cooldown. So it's really, really helpful. And if you don't have the passive at all, the cooldown will still be the same, but the potion duration will be about 36, 37 seconds instead. So you're going to be a 10-second gap. Get this passive as soon as you can. Dump these points if you don't want to use them to make potions. Now, we're going to get into the gear, and this is going to get not that complicated, but you're going to have a lot more choices than you thought you had. So, we are, of course, using the Undaunted Infiltrator Lightning Staff. We are still using it. So if you did spend loads and loads of time farming this, yes, it's easy to farm, but it's not necessarily guaranteed to drop, and the RNG for this can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. This is very, very strong still. It has a max magic bonus, another max magic bonus, a weapon crit bonus, which is duff. We want to get rid of that and turn it into spell crit one day. Please, Zos, fix that. And when you use a Magicka ability, your light attacks and heavy attacks will be increased for 10 seconds. This is an active buff that stays for you for 10 seconds and refreshes every time you use a Magicka skill on this bar. We're using 1 weapon on the front bar, which is worth 2 pieces because it's a staff, it's a 2-handed weapon, and we're using 3 jewelry. So although this is a medium set, we've effectively turned it into a light set by changing the traits on the jewelry to infused and too bloodthirsty. So there's no robust trait here, there's no medium armor, it's basically just 3 pieces of jewelry and a staff. The dungeon itself is a walkthrough for most people. It's just a matter of time as to whether you get it or not. Kill all the ads, pick up all the chests, kill the last boss. It can drop from any of those. Now, we want precise on purpose with a weapon and spell damage increase, and this is incredibly important to our overall damage output because this pushes your heavy attacks a lot. What else pulls your heavy attacks a lot is this. Now, the perfected Maelstrom Light and Staff comes from Veteran Maelstrom Arena. Before Greymoor, you couldn't get Maelstrom weapons except for doing Veteran. Veteran now gives you perfected. Normal now gives you the basic version. The same weapon we've been using for the last 3, 4, 5 years. However long Orsinium's been out for. So the weapon that most people have been trying to get while struggling in Maelstrom for months and months and months at a time, getting really frustrated with it, you can now get on normal difficulty. So get into normal Maelstrom, get yourself the regular version of this. The only difference is it's got a spell pen bonus. That spell pen is only effective while on your back bar anyway, so it honestly really doesn't make that much difference. And if you're already hitting spell cap for penetration, that is not going to affect this build at all. So if you've got the normal one, you are just fine. If you don't have cap spell penetration, then of course this does give you a slight benefit when you swap bars, and that's it. But essentially, when you have a wall of elements down, which we've already gone over, you need it for your off balance and for your damage output and concussion, your light and heavy attacks will be increased. That also stacks with this. Our heavy attacks are going to be very important for us. These two both push your lights and heavies, and this has gone up a little bit as well. So that's really helpful. Like I said earlier, however, if you have off balance 100% covered in your group, and you can guarantee that you do not need to bring it to your group because someone else is already doing it and they're good at it, then you can swap to the Flame Staff, and this will give you a little bit more damage overall, especially if you've got a DK in the group. If that happens, you want a Flame Staff with a Flame Glyph. If you're solo, in a group that you don't know, or in a group that doesn't have any off balance at all, you can bring it all by putting a Shock Glyph and a Lightning Staff on. Do not try and solo with a Flame Staff because you won't get off balance, you won't get the big heavy attacks, and you will go down a substantial amount in your overall damage output. Now, the set on the body is the same. We are using Infallible Ether. This has 2 crit bonuses, a spell damage bonus, and minor slayer, increasing all of our damage we do by 5%. And the pop at the end of your fully charged heavy attack is increased by 903. This does apply minor vulnerability for 10 seconds on the target for doing a heavy attack, sure, but that's not what we want this for. We've got enough minor vulnerability anyway, so that 5th bit there can just go away. We're not even interested in the 5-piece bonus, except for the heavy attack additional damage. Now, while on paper that looks like a small amount, consider we've got Undaunted Infiltrator increasing our lights and heavies, we have the Maelstrom weapon increasing our lights and heavies, and we have Ether increasing our lights and heavies, our heavies, which means stacking them all up, especially during off balance, is a lot of damage, and that, of course, does count towards your splash damage as well. The 3 sets combined is really, really nice for your heavies. That's why. I know lots of people scream about minor vulnerability on this particular set, and for the last 3 years I've been trying to tell people that's not what we're using it for. We get minor vulnerability anyway. We're using it for the heavy attack damage. Now, the helmet we're using, this is going to piss your tanks off. More of Inferno actually got a bit buffed, and we would be stupid not to use it. There are options here, I'm going to go over them in a second, but you want 1 heavy, 1 medium. This will spawn a Jeff. Jeff is a Daedroth. That's what we called him on the live stream. He's called Jeff. He will be spawned for a whopping 15 seconds, doing flame damage attacks and breath attacks and all manner of nastiness. And it only comes from your lights and heavies, which we're doing lots of. The thing is, this used to be a much, much lesser chance to spawn, and now it's 33% chance. So if you're heavy attacking during that channel, it's pretty much going to spawn. This doesn't have any additional cooldowns. This is a 15-second timer with a 15-second cooldown, so you can have 100% uptime on this almost. Give or take a second or 2 between lights and heavies if it's just gone and disappeared and it's come back again. This is stupidly powerful. It's consistent damage. It's really handy. Definitely get this. Now, if you choose to, you can, of course, still use Zaan. It's a really nice single target, especially for burst, but it doesn't have the long duration that Jeff has. And, of course, it's limited to range. So if you are too far away, this will break and it's over. This underperformed while still doing quite well. Grofdar is still absolutely amazing. The difference is, of course, this is a surrounding area of effect around you with 5 seconds uptime, 5 seconds downtime. So if you're running around a lot, this is actually really good, especially for close by ads. But more of Inferno, again, for single target, and close quarter frontal AoE stuff is actually still quite nice. So you've got two choices here. And Alambris is actually pretty damn good. The differences between this and Groftar is that this will do more damage than Groftar, but it's static. This will only be on the target that it procs on, whereas Groftar sticks to you and you can run around the room with it. So Alambris was actually very, very nice. A good uptime. It applies much, much easier than before. It only has one of the two damage types, though. You can either fire lightning from it if you're using a full lightning setup, or you can do fire from it if you're doing some fire, and it will do damage every 1 second for 5 seconds with an 8-second cooldown. So the gap for this compared to Groftar is actually shorter. Damage output is higher, cooldown is less, but the sacrifice to gain is this is static, this is moving around. However, more of the Inferno's nuts, so I would recommend you give it a go. If you can get past Jeff being in the way all the time, this is amazing. Now, choices. Now, just bear in mind, of course, if you don't have the Maelstrom weapon yet, and maybe you are struggling in a normal Maelstrom, you can, of course, put willpower on the back bar for the time being. There is a crafted setup on the website if you are very, very new and you just want to put some stuff on for the time being while you go and get all your shinies, but this is quite quick to get hold of, especially now that they've changed how you get arena weapons. Now, if you want to take advantage of the new antiquity system and you want to make this do a shit ton more damage, but have a risk for reward theme to it if you like, you can of course put on Thracian Stranglers. And all you need to do is you're going to sacrifice the pop at the end of your heavy attack for 3k extra spell damage. If you put this on, if you kill 20 enemies and you don't crouch or die, you will actually get a stack of 150 spell damage for every enemy that you personally kill. If that happens, you've got 3k extra spell damage. Also, though, every single one of those is going to make you take 2% less healing received, 2% less effective to your damage shield, and 2% more damage is going to be taken. So, at maximum, you're going to have 3k spell damage as a bonus, but you're going to take 40% more damage. You're going to have 40% less effective damage shields, and you're going to have 40% less effective healing taken. However, we did try this out in a trial, and we had multiple different people of different skill levels. Some had 2 stacks, some had 7, some had 20. No one actually felt any different performance-wise in terms of their survival, so long as the group was pumping out a decent amount of heals and mitigation. It actually felt just fine. So this is going to take a little bit of practice. It's going to take a little bit of solo farming. But if you can get to grips with it, and you're already experienced with the Easy Sorc, this will increase your performance a substantial amount in terms of damage output. The difference is, if you're in a situation where you are doing a really good rotation, you can keep up all your good shiny stuff, then you can get anywhere between sort of 70 to 80k, give or take crits. If you're using Thracian Stranglers, you can crack way over 100k, pushing 120. That depends on the situation. On average, you're probably going to be pushing 100, but it's very, very powerful indeed. So I would recommend at least getting it and trying it. But if you can manage the Easy Sorc well and you're an experienced player and you're still enjoying the build, this just boosted the crap out of it. Now, the other option, of course, if you're not using Thracian Stranglers, or you could actually put it on the front bar if you wanted. It's going to drop your damage overall, though. The other set you can use, if we just go back to the basic one, is Roaring Opportunist. Now, this is a very unusual set in that it's got penetration, which you probably don't need, minus Slayer, which is nice, spell damage, which is nice, and max Magicka, which is nice. But your fully charged heavy attacks will give up to 11 other people and yourself Major Slayer. Now, this is scaled off of heavy attack damage, and no, it does not work with channeled heavy attacks in terms of the damage calculation. The pop at the end is what you get it from. So, you can have a minimum duration of 5 seconds and a maximum of 12. So the higher that pop at the end, the better. But if you take Ether off, remember that pop's going to go down. In testing, most of us managed to get this up to is about 6 seconds. But 6 seconds of Major Slayer for your entire group is a really good amount of damage output. But you really want to put this on something that's got really high flame damage attacks. So you are probably going to want someone wielding flame heavy attacks on a mag DK, because you're going to need around 96k heavy attack to even get this to maximum. So it's quite an awkward set, but if you do have access to it, you can do heavy attacks and give people 5 to 6 seconds uptime on Major Slayer every 22 seconds. That is better than nothing. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't, don't. Overall, I would stick to the basic setup, and I would highly recommend you try Thracian Stranglers. It's disgusting. Now, we're going to go into the champion points, and I'm going to explain the rotation. Red stuff is pretty much the same as usual. 72 into Ironclad to reduce the amount of direct damage you take, 64 and 64 for everything else, and 51 into Thick-Skinned for damage over time. Just bear in mind, if you do break free, your next stamina ability is cheaper within the next 5 seconds, so if you are using a Beast Trap, you want to throw that out after you break free. 19 into Quick Recovery to increase our healing received. We are going to need that, especially since we've got Thracian Stranglers if you're using it, because your healing received is nuked. And you take 15% less damage while rezzing. If you've used Easy Sorc before, you've probably got an abundance of Soul Gems because you're one of the hardest ones to kill. So you might as well take this passive because you're going to be picking people up. 44 points into Warlord to reduce the cost to break free. 75 in Tenacity to increase the return from our heavy attacks. And 14% here, so 75 into Magicka Recovery as well to increase our Mag Recovery. This doesn't really need 76 now. You can take advantage of this and put a few points into here. But either way, as long as you've got 72 points into Tumbling, you can put 4 into Shadow Ward to just give you that 1% block cost reduction. This is the really helpful part. You can put what you want in there. But we do get Treasure Hunter passive as well. So if you are farming for Undaunted Infiltrator, you can get higher quality loot from chests, which means you have a heightened chance to get the shiny stuff rather than just the plain loot that isn't part of a set. 61 to Elf Pawn to increase our critical damage. 56 into Elemental Expert to increase all of our damage. Now, you can put points into Spell Erosion if you really want to. Depends on your group. Depends what buffs and bonuses you do have access to. Essentially, we don't really need any points, but maximum I'd put 9 points into here. If you have to. And I'll take it out of Staff Expert. But for the time being, this is how we're going to set it up. 50 points into Staff Expert, 28 into Master at Arms. This will increase our mines damage and our light attacks and our glyphs and all that good stuff. This will increase lights and heavies overall, and this will actually contribute towards your lights. And 75 points into Thaumaturge to increase our damage over time, including our heavy attack channel. And because we've got Exploiter passive, anything that is off balance, which is being forced by us anyway, has a 10% increase. So our light attacks and heavy attacks, in fact, we'll just go with heavy attacks. Undaunted Infiltrator, Ether, and the Maelstrom weapon all boost our heavy attacks. So does the off balance from having extra damage from doing a heavy attack during off balance, and so does this as an extra bonus on top of that. So our heavies are very, very powerful, plus they do splash damage in area of effect. You must make sure you use your heavies in this build. Now, the rotation is going to be really, really simple. If you are using Beast Trap, then you will need to use it every single rotation. But if you're not, then we will do 2 different skills. One rotation, one the next. So, when you get into the fight, you obviously want to have your pet active. As you can see, our Undaunted Infiltrator has started. Our arms are glowing. So that's easy. Now, you want to have your buffs running. So you want to have your resistance buff on. You want to have your crit surge on. And you want to start like this. Now, the way I would do this is always have 1 buff every cast. So, Lightning Flood, Light Attack, Boundless Storms, Light Attack, Wall of Elements, swap bars. Then, you want Light Attack Mines, Heavy Attack, Mines, Heavy Attack, activate your Budgie, swap bars. Lightning, Light Crit Surge this time, Light Wall, swap bars. And just repeat. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Until the target is 50% or under. In which case, stop casting him or her and replace it with an extra Mines. So your front bar would be Light Mines, Heavy Mines, Heavy Mines, swap bars. Every rotation, you change your buff. One way round, you go to this. The other way, you go to this. So it's that, buff, wall, swap. Next time you come round, it's that, buff, wall, swap. Alternate that buff every rotation, and none of them will ever run out. If you are using Beast Trap, however, you won't be using Crit Surge. You'll need to use a Beast Trap every rotation, and you just use your Boundless Storm every second. So that would be this, Light Boundless, Light Beast Trap, Light Wall, swap. Next time, you don't need to use Boundless again because it's already running. Light Beast Trap, Light Wall, swap. So you'll alternate them. I will put that on the website, obviously, so it makes a lot more sense. But here's the more complicated part. If you are an experienced player and you can keep an eye on off balance and time it well alongside your passive recovery, your heavy attack recovery, and all that good stuff, in some situations, if all the buff and bonuses are applied, you can basically do this. You can spam Light Mines, Light Mines, Light Mines 4 times, pet and swap. During execute, you can do this again, but without the pet. Now, on standard situations, normal groups, dungeons, stuff like that, you might not be able to get away with it. But in a trial, if you've got a lot of recovery, especially if you've got lots of people using Hollow Fang, because I know lots of people that use the Easy Sorc run alongside the off-balance build, you will be able to do this in some situations. Do that when the target is not off balance, and heavy attack mines when the target is off balance. Pay very close attention to your sustain. If you're around the 70 to 80% mark, you can get away with it. If you're not, don't risk it. The choice is yours, but failing that, you can just keep it very simple. When it comes to the dummy stuff, obviously that's not completely straightforward anyway, because it's rigged with loads of different variables added and loads of different variables missing. So there can be fluctuations in content as to how this does or doesn't perform. But if you want to look at a kind of round ballpark figure, using a basic rotation, the one I demonstrated a moment ago, most players will get between 65 and 75 KDPS on single target, not including the amount of massive damage you do on area of effect. If you are experienced and you can make it a little bit more active, you can push up to around the 80 mark. And this doesn't have to be having the dummy up against the wall. This can be in the middle of the room. If you use Thracian Stranglers, however, you will get anywhere between 100 and 120. Depending on the situation, depending on the buffs and bonuses applied. And this is all without major vulnerability as well. Now, I know there's been some whinging about people in the past going, oh my god, you've got a flame staff on there. Yes, I already explained that in this video, and the last one, and the one before that. If off balance is covered, you can use a flame staff. That will increase your damage output. The dummy is covered in off balance. That's the situation you are catering for. Also, people have been complaining saying Sororia is on the dummy. Look at the spell damage and the crit chance. That's not Sororia. Look at this one. Look at the spell damage and the crit chance. Took 2 crit bonuses away, added 600 spell damage. There's your Sororia. So the choices that you make are entirely up to you, but the fact remains, it works. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. Hopefully you enjoy the new options that we've got, and of course the potential for it as well. This is for anyone in the game. It doesn't matter if you're very, very new or very experienced. Anyone can use it, and it's fine in all content. But again, the choice is yours. So first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. If you're not subscribing already on YouTube, please do hit that button. It is free. And of course, hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are coming. Also, if you want to help support out of the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website xynodegaming.com, where all the written guides are, including this one. And there's a new Rocks extension on Twitch, which you can actually access outside of Twitch, where you can actually buy collectibles to do with the channel, and you can eventually, if all goes well, trade them with your mates as well. So check that out if you're interested, and if you want to see specific ones, you can even suggest your own. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.